Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. To subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast platforms, please visit us at www.thewisdomcircle.com.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wisdom Circle. Thank you for those that have been loyal to us for almost 2 years now, and maybe we have some new listeners and viewers, and we appreciate you joining us and seeing if we can learn anything. First of all, let me welcome my co-host, a friend of 40-some years, Ray Warren. Ray, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. How you doing?
Good. So, we always say that, we're going to learn as much as hopefully you do as well. Those of you who have followed us, it's very organic. You probably can tell we don't really rehearse this at all. We want it to be spontaneous, like it would be in a business meeting or any kind of interaction with people. So thanks again for supporting us in your viewership. We're really very honored to have someone that actually has a doctor in front of his name, Professor Lee Igel, who I got to meet when I was an adjunct at NYU. For those of you that may not be from the New York area, NYU is New York University, located down in the sort of village of New York City, been around for a long, long time, very prestigious. And Professor Igel, we'll call him Lee after that, now that I've brought the titles up. Has been there for 21 years, currently and I hope I get this right, Lee, clinical professor for the Tisch Global Sport Institute. And Lee's really been instrumental in growing that department over the years with the students who are basically getting degrees in sports marketing administration, and then also can get a master's program as well. So with that introduction, Lee, good morning. And thanks for joining us.
Good morning. And thanks. Really, the honor's mine. It's very nice of you to say you're honored to have me, but my goodness, Tony Ponturo and Ray Warren, it's an honor. Thank you for letting me join, and also this podcast.
Well, we have fun doing it, and I know you're instrumental. You're working, you're teaching all the time. And your students should also point out that NYU has an amazing campus in Abu Dhabi, where I know you've led some conferences. I joined you once in one of those, and you also contribute for Forbes in their sports money section. I think you have an article that just came out. So you like pontificating a little bit about sports and the finance. So tell us, Lee, in your words, NYU, Forbes, I know you led a mayor's conference. You can articulate that better, but give us sort of the Lee Igel version of who you are.
Yeah, well, I think you probably did a better job than I did.
Like Rachel Maddow.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's pretty good, very good summary on it. So most of my time is spent at NYU is spent teaching, and we've got 3 programs: an undergraduate program and 2 master's programs, one in sports business and one in global sport. And then another big chunk of my work there is co-leading a project partnership that we've had with the United States Conference of Mayors on all things sports and cities, which extends out into tourism, arts, parks, and entertainment. We've been doing that for about a dozen years now, and it's produced somewhere now around 300 projects from youth all the way up to the pros. And of course, if sports is happening somewhere in a city and with mayors, that connects to leagues and clubs and individuals. So it's all these sorts of things. And then Tony, you were kind enough to mention some writing for Sports Money at Forbes, which has been a great platform. Thanks to the editors and people there for a long time. And I'll just stop there because I think, they say about professors, it's either 3 minutes or 3 hours and nothing in between. Coming up soon on those 3 minutes.
Yeah, no, you're doing good. Wow, that's quite extraordinary. So I guess I'll ask the first question, Tony.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it's it's such an interesting background, and I'm wondering a couple of things, like 30 things, but I'll try to do less than 3 hours. Um, so one is, what led you to that position, maybe previous to that, whatever. Nothing. Sometimes we do, and we will go back. So what's the full journey? But this is just like, okay, getting into NYU and deciding to do that. The other thing, I mean, when you said cities, I'm thinking about, I mean, there can't be a city in the country that isn't exploring some way. I just last night, they're going to build a 6,000 seat soccer stadium in Port St. Lucie, Florida, 20 miles north of us, and a complex with real estate and shops and all that. So I can't imagine how overwhelming that could be. So those, I guess I'll keep it to those two. One, starting this program at NYU, and then two, how much of an influx are you having from the cities and mayor's position or offering?
Yeah, so I mean, great things. I'll try to clear the first one first, not because you asked it, because it gives me an opportunity to talk less about myself than anything else. But really, so the truth is, Tony, I think people who are watching and listening know, authored a book, and I'll just say that's like really near and dear to my heart, personally and professionally. The messages in it, the spirit of it, and really the guidance in it explains a whole lot about my arriving at NYU, which to me, in prospect, I never would have come up with it, and in retrospect, I see there's some kind of design from somewhere, but it wasn't my design. And the truth, my work had started out in sports medicine and player development, and then into health and wellness for a little while. And just around the time I was preparing to move on from that work and go back into sports, into professional sports and an elite amateur. I was in New York, and actually, someone I was working with in health and wellness said that her sister had been working at NYU, had been teaching at NYU in the hospitality program, and that they were just starting up a sports management program. And I didn't really know much about it, but it seemed like there might be some people there with common backgrounds and interesting to talk to. And so I was connected to them and really just went to, they were so kind to invite me to events and programs that they had. And, the sort of quick version to it is at a point invited me to come in for a guest talk, said, we really don't have anybody who's exposing our students to the kind of area of sports that you work in, which was actually really helpful because I said, well, what's that? And, and they just said, well, whatever it is you want to talk about. Okay, I do that. And
That's
I really
nice.
did it when I really did it, just as sort of a side note. One, because it was an honor and it was an opportunity, but
Sure.
I really, really believed at the same time, I was like, my high school teachers will never, ever, 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 ever believe this. So you got to do it. That and make mom and dad proud.
Right.
There's a lot going in that direction, but it did that. I got invited then to teach some courses as an adjunct for a year. And when that was rounding out, these things happen in life. And I know that for both of you, from a career development standpoint and the messages that you share with people and in helping them develop, that it's really about sort of being aware of opportunities and my goodness, and these flukes that happen. So there was a full-time faculty member in the program at the time who decided really quickly, or quickly to the department's knowledge, that he was leaving, and they were looking for someone. And one of the other faculty there were two full-time faculty members, and one of them had recommended me to the dean and said, "Here's somebody who might be able to help."
No.
And
One step in front of the other. One foot
that
in
was
front
it.
of the other.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so it was for 1 year. And I thought, my goodness, my high school teachers will really never believe this. And so now it's on. And it was a great opportunity just to sort of figure out, okay, I got a year to now figure out what's next. And, so many years later, still here and building on this kind of work. So that's really that piece of it. And again, the kinds of things that you talk about on this podcast and that I know you talk about in your personal professional conversations and the things that are in books like Tony's. That's my story.
No, it's a good. So I got a part two now before we get to the cities. What are the students? How have they changed over the last few years, and what are they currently? Because I'm guessing the big brands, MLB, NBA, NFL, etc. But is it more MLS? Is it more FIFA? Is it more pickleball? Is it more golf? Where's the thinking of the students you're currently taught, or is it just about making money?
Yeah. No, it's not really about making money. It's all the things, Ray, that you were just speaking to. It's all those different areas, and then some. I think over time, it's been interesting to watch this balance and try to figure it out, where the combination is between, well, we're in New York and that's global, but maybe we ought to focus on things domestically, because that's why students from around the world come to NYU and people come to New York. And so, we'll focus on things a bit more. I know when we started all those years ago, it was much more kind of domestic.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get some students go, well, it'd be nice to have some international. And then we would kind of flip a bit more internationally and globally. And then be like, well, I came here to study things domestically. I'm from China, or I'm from Chile, and I want to know what's going on in the States. We go, okay, all that balance. I think now, and it's been for some time, we've worked out somewhere in that balance to do that. And certainly as NYU has expanded globally, with all these locations around the world, which you can talk about in a bit, that's helped and sort of been a guide. But the students 20 years ago, they came in wanting to be one of two things: either the general manager of a major club or an agent. It was like Jerry Maguire fever. And then we would kind of get them around to this idea of like, well, there are all these other things that you could do. And both of because I think you really both, hope everybody who listens to this knows, like, you are both pioneers in the sports industry. I mean, you've shaped what people do today. It's like sort of a stop and pause moment, really.
Well, if they don't know, we've certainly told them enough times.
You have, and I think even then, and probably, I know from other guests you've had on, they say it too. But I think even then, people need to know. They deserve to know, and you really both deserve enormous credit for shaping it. And I think, by the way, we probably wouldn't have the work that we have at places like NYU and these other programs without the likes of you doing what you did. And I hope modesty doesn't get the better of you on this next part. But I know in talking, whether it's with mayors, executives and leaderships in leagues and clubs, in agencies, the reputations that both of you have, and it's not only personal and professional. It's just kind of your souls. You just shaped what people are doing in the sports industry. And
that's interesting. I think Tony and I have known each other for 47 years. And Tony, it's funny, I think we both kept each other in check over the years. Somebody's head was getting too big, or somebody was kind of like making a bad turn over spaghetti and meatballs somewhere in the city. We'd say, bad idea, man. That's a bad idea. And I think that the relationship, which is probably a big part of what you see with students or mate, whatever. The relationships are so key. So, yeah, thank you for saying all that. Didn't come here to blush, but I'm an easy blush. Thank you. It's very kind.
Well, and as you're saying, Lee, and having been in the classroom a little bit, I know Ray has guest spoke. It's so much about being real. I remember one of my first classes at NYU, and as one of the students was handing over his blue book for his final exam, his parting words were, "Thanks for making it real." And it is about people. That's what as you mentioned the book, I'll put the title on it, Revenge of the C Plus Student, which is really about, and what you just said, it's about being true to yourself, doing the hard work. Fate or whatever takes its lead. It's really your hard work and how you represent yourself, and then your career sort of goes along. And we all, having been in our careers for a long time, can go back and tell the story, because it's been written, if you will. But as you're doing it, it's sort of writing itself. And so when you're advising young people, to me, it's about is get started, be collaborative, be a team player, build your foundation, and then the rest will fall into place. And all of a sudden you're doing this, and whatever. So it's good advice that you started. And you also do some work with the medical, with is like ethnic things about ethnic medicine, right? Ethical medicine. You may want to touch on that a little bit too. But
before we do that, I do want to get Tony mad at me because it wouldn't be the first time. It certainly won't be the last. When he told me about the book, which was being written, and he told me about the title, and I just got back from 12 days in Sicily, said to Tony, it's funny that my Sicilian friend decides to write a book, and the first word is revenge. I'm like, it's just so perfect. But anyways.
Well, what they say about the Italians, we don't get mad, we just get even.
Exactly.
But anyway.
So back to the ethical medicine. Sorry, I'm done interrupting.
No, Ray, actually, it's not even an interruption. I hadn't even thought about that. And all that I knew about that book, I'm really having like a good thought about that. That title, there's a lot of Tony Ponturo.
You can
in that title. I hadn't even thought about that.
Well, you would not to digress, go down the rabbit hole here, but you were instrumental in encouraging me to write it. And I took a few stabs and then put it aside. And you said, "Why aren't you finishing this book?" So I have to give you credit. It's important. I don't know. It's important to tell your story if you need to get it out, right? And what you believe in, and people can take. I was telling. I'll do one more shameless plug. So I was telling Ray, since he just traveled recently, there's a documentary on both Prime Video, Apple TV, and YouTube called "There Once Was a Brewery," which I participated in. Didn't realize I was going to be in it as much as I am, but it was about talking about the culture. Not that we bought all these sponsorships and all that, but what the culture was at Anheuser-Busch that when it first started in the 26 years I was there, and then how it sort of evolved, and people can make their own decision whether it's good or bad when InBev 3G Capital bought it. So it's an interesting documentary, and the people who put it together felt that it was a story to be told, about culture and change and keeping up with things or getting ahead of things that can hurt your company, i.e. Bud Light situation. But I felt that because I debated whether to do it, because for those that will watch it, I don't mention one other name other than maybe August Bush. But I felt that the story was important to tell, and it really wasn't so much revenge, but it was just to tell the story because I thought it was important to represent a time where we took 22 market share to 50 to a time where it's something different. Anyway, more about Professor Igel here.
Well, no, but to that, that title, you kind of do the deep reading on the title. And it really is you because I think as people know, even, from listening to what you do on this podcast and places you go about that, even that word revenge, that means there are layers to that. And
it's really
it's like the good and the tough in that. And it means that for you.
Well, it's about being catchy, right? It was really saying to those, that didn't go to an Ivy League school, that didn't get all A's, but can become successful because it's a lot of common sense. It's a lot of getting along with people. So it was about it. It was really also meant to talk to people that work at Walmart and, nurses and not doctors so much, but, first responders and stuff like that, because no one's really guiding people when they go and become I mean, I think the head CEO of Costco started out as a cashier, so, that tells you a lot right there. Anyway,
Yeah.
about the cities, this is really Ray's question, but just to get us focused up on that.
Ethical.
Oh, the medical ethics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we go to cities.
Yeah. So I'll mention that. So yeah. So
You don't think Ray's controlling it all, do you, Lee?
no.
I'm just trying to keep it away from being the Tony Ponturo show. We're quickly flipping the switch here. Lee's a better host than we are. So, I don't know who's interviewing who today.
No, I knew what I was getting into, and it's a good thing. It's a great thing. But yeah, so also there's technically it's an appointment in the Division of Medical Ethics at NYU Grossman School of Medicine, which is part of NYU Langone Health. But you see, if you come around New York, you'll see NYU Langone Health everywhere. So that's that, and that's it's a department that's headed up by Arthur Kaplan, who's he's really one of the premier ethicists in the world, and he got that way through medical ethics, and also, like both of you in the sports world, he's a pioneer in medical ethics and decision making, and there's a reason why he ends up on television all the time, not because he's a good talking head, but because he really helped chart the course for all these sorts of things that crop up in health and medicine, in the news, and we got to know each other some years ago, even before he came to NYU, when he was still at Penn, at the University of Pennsylvania. But discovering this thing and how we got to know each other actually was something that Tony had gotten involved with during his time at NYU. Program that we had called Sports and Society, which lived for a handful of years, and its design was really in partnership and really led by Arthur Miller, the law professor and former Good Morning America and Fred Friendly series on PBS from back in the day, and just sort of backtracking to say we had gotten to know each other just also by chance. And I'm not a lawyer and didn't really know him from that world, but when he was still at Harvard before he came to NYU, and the sort of shortcut to how all these people came together was really that it turned out leaders in different fields, but when you got to talk to them, they all loved sports, and the thing they really wanted to talk about was sports, and it was I'd never get a chance to talk enough about it and all the issues in it. And so I might be in a law school classroom or on Good Morning America or in, a medical school classroom or even in a hospital, sort of solving these sorts of issues. And at low levels, at high levels, and mid levels, but there are all these things going on in sports, and how do we get to talk about it? And so,
Hey, Lee, give one example.
Out of that.
Give one example for our viewers. Not to throw you a curve, but what would be an example of a medical ethics situation? Like what are the things that you've worked on?
Yeah, better than the abstract. So this could be This could be anything from concussions in youth sports all the way up to the NFL, the NHL. It's soccer, football, what the rest of the world calls football. It could be that, which then sort of extends into, it in some ways crosses even into some of the mayor's work, which has been mentioned, and the city's work, because really they're also, ethics is about decision making, and it's about how people think and feel and behave, and how they go about things in the way they go in certain situations. And so it could be anything about that. We did work on bullying in sports, which stemmed out of a situation the Miami Dolphins had with workplace bullying. And so it's sort of these kinds of things. And and I can go on the list in terms of medical ethics,
That's
but if
good.
it's this fusion of sports and medical ethics
And behavior. Yeah.
and behavior. And so this the
Right.
entire division there, just so that people know, is really about everything from, if it's happening in medicine and healthcare, about medications and vaccines and all these things. That's what the larger department focuses on. But my work in there and as part of this team is really sort of the sports focused piece of it.
And you got to cover parenting too, right? The parents who punch out the referees because they didn't like the call.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really, a huge part of it.
God. Yeah.
Thinking through things. And by the way, Tony was likewise instrumental in developing, so much of this program that, and influencing it. But really it's even things like that. People think they go, oh, well, get the parents out of there because they yell and they scream and they don't let the kids play. But you need the parent support. The parents
Right.
have to be there and they want to see their kids play. And they want to do good things, most of them. Really all of them. They're just, getting out in a certain way. So it's winding through how do we make those things happen so that these are great experiences for everyone.
Yeah.
And I'll just add one more while we're on there. That crosses really out of this mayor's work that we keep mentioning about, but it can even get into things like now there are big issues around excessive heat. And we've got, we had the Club World Cup here in the United States, FIFA Club World Cup last summer. Now we're gearing up for the co-hosted with Mexico and Canada World Cup, this sports mega event that I don't have to tell the both of you about, or probably of your listeners and viewers. And excessive heat is a massive issue. So we're working on things like that and thinking through those and, how do we help people? How do we help communities and support people in communities?
Yeah. Wow. That's very cool. Because, I'm thinking mayors and good knows a litigious society and misbehavior on a field, on a public park or in a public league where somebody's getting sued and huge. Very interesting. Very interesting.
So Lee, you're writing these articles about sports money. Private equity's coming in a big way to sports. They're raising billion-dollar funds to invest and looking for things. What's in general? What's your take on that? Is that a good thing for sports, or is that going to be disruptive in a not so positive way?
Oh, I'm interested, to hear. I was going to put that back on you, on the both of you, since you've seen the arc. You've, and Tony, you were just talking a little bit ago about Anheuser-Busch, and I think really it going from not only a family company, but a very sort of analyzing your analysis, but it's very people. I think that's what bothers you about the transformations there, is that it's gone from a very people focused and people oriented place to something more transactional. And the good
it went from making friends as our business is how does the bottom line look?
Yeah, that bothers you.
And that does. But what's interesting is I'll take the lead and then shut up, but it's obviously providing money for a lot of these new niche sports. And, and working on one myself, this 3-on-3 hockey. So there's resources out there to support it. And I was saying to someone yesterday, at some point, the fun of getting the money is going to turn to the private equity boys and girls saying, okay, we need to get a return to get the 10 or 15% return to these funds. It's not the equity funds money. It's people's money that they've invested into the fund, trying to get a higher return that they've been promised. So at some point, it's going to be, how do we make money in order to pay back the fund plus a profit? And that's going to be, I think, the interesting thing to watch, because those who have been in sports a long time know that particularly people that do rights fees and stuff, and Ray can talk better to this than I, the broadcasters don't necessarily make a lot of money on their sports. It has other residual benefits. And Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's an expensive rights and expensive costs of production. And at the end of the day, the profit may be very small, or it may not be a profit.
It is very much, we would put money, like make believe money. I'm going to have to go way back, sorry, but it will explain some of what's going on. So in 1984, we paid the Olympic Committee $90 million for the rights to the Sarajevo Olympics.
This was ABC.
We paid, say, what?
This when you were at ABC. You just said
I was at ABC Television Network Sales. I was in charge with two other guys of forecasting and projecting and blah, blah, blah. Not for the $90 million deal. I was selling advertising for that. And it didn't snow when we needed it to snow. It rained when, and the ratings were down, and U.S. was awful, etc. Russia didn't come. I think that was 80. But we paid $90 million. That's the point I'm trying to get to. In 1988, the rights for the Calgary Olympics were $309 million. So in a 4-year period of time, they almost quadrupled. And we had to put revenue against categories that didn't even exist practically, or never spent a dime on a 30-second spot. Point simply being, ABC needed the Olympics for more than just break even or make money. They needed to keep the lights on. They needed to have other ways to promote their local stations, to fund other programming. And it's always been a kick the can down the road business. It's always been a future focused. So I don't think any of us will be around, and some longer than others, when somebody sells something 100% and cashes it in and says, "Okay, I'm closing down the Boston Celtics. I got my money, and I don't want to play anymore. I'm taking my ball. I'm going home." So, to all the new rights fees deals you see are a lot of, oh, come on, this is going to get better. Because the one thing they know, and Tony and I pat ourselves on the back all the time for picking the sports business back in the 70s and 80s and staying in that business, which has turned out to be the best content business there is, unless you're Netflix or a streamer who's popular. And I could even suggest that Prime isn't that popular. Sorry, Tony, I'm going to pay $5. I'm going to watch the show on Amazon Prime. But so Prime, Paramount, Apple, all those guys, they're good. I mean, yesterday Comcast announced a bundling deal with Apple and Peacock. Thankfully, that might help Peacock. But it's Netflix and sports. And now Netflix is getting into sports. So Lord only knows. But it's all future looking, and no one ever gets, because there's always somebody who's willing to pay more. If you have a $200 ticket, somebody will pay you $300 for a ticket. If you have a $6 billion team, someone will pay you $7 billion. It's the craziest thing ever.
You go to your Fire Stick, and all of a sudden you hit Prime Video, and if the game's on, it's like instant tune-in. It's like I don't have to find it; it's there.
Yeah,
it seems totally natural. And the leagues, the traditional leagues, if you will, have been very fortunate. They go from 3 over-the-air broadcasters that Ray and I started with, ABC, CBS, NBC, to Fox, which created a different level of competition, to satellite TV, ESPN, Turner, TBS, new revenue. Now it's, Amazon, Netflix, etc., Apple TV. So they've always lucked out. And what people forget, is that the consumer, underwrite sports. We forget we buy satellite TV, we buy the streaming services, we buy Coca-Cola, Budweiser, and Kellogg's, and Geico Insurance. We're underwriting sports, but we don't really think about it. I wanted to ask you this because with this 3-on-3 hockey I'm working with, we're actually going to do it outside of Iowa City next year, and working with a company called Riverside Casino and Resorts, which is, golf course, casino. There's a 6,000 seat arena that they don't own, but in this city. Yeah. And I think what happened with the Savannah Bananas was, everyone wants to see if they can duplicate this family entertainment where people can take their sons and daughters and have a day out in the summer that's not terribly expensive and just have a nice time. And so I'm a big believer in there is an audience called the family unit, the young family unit that's looking for summertime entertainment. And if you can provide that, that's important. So Is that something that mayors are talking about, or is that just my own delusion?
Yeah. I mean, all the joking aside, I mean, you always had your finger on the pulse of where things are going next. I mean, that's again credit to your story that and what Ray was just talking about that both of you were so in early on and understood what was emerging in sports and in the sports landscape when people were, to borrow the Jim McKay line, it was still the toy department. And in some ways, it
Right.
still is considered the toy department, uh, even with all this money sort of sloshing around, uh, it's still not taken as seriously. But I would kind of work backwards on it and say, yes, the mayors and cities are for sure looking at these kinds of these projects, these products, these investments, and it's interesting. A bit of shout out to our partners at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Tom McClyman and Jocelyn Bogan, who head up or oversee this committee, this unit on tourism, arts, parks, entertainment, and sports. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Tom is from Iowa, and anytime that
Okay.
Iowa gets mentioned, um, I we just need to kind of have a moment with it. But it's really interesting because you go to a place like Iowa City, where people, I think in general, are kind of going, that's not one of the first places you think of as being on the sports map. But the thing is, neither was Arlington, Texas,
Right.
point in time. And now it is. Now, then it was, now it is. And you can even look at that, not to go too far afield, but you can even look at that with something like World Cup. The mayor of Dallas is talking about how the World Cup is coming there. It's a host city, but the mayor in Arlington is talking about, and they're very good terms. But he goes, but Arlington is actually the host.
Hmm.
That's where the venue is. It's AT&T Stadium, Jerry's World.
Yeah.
So you get all these things of big cities and markets in between, uh, mid markets and smaller markets, and sports matters. And uh, you you know I think it's not to my mind. It's based on what we've learned is that uh, there is a place, there is a space for the these kinds of sports, and it makes sports accessible, which I think it goes back to what Ray was asking about and what you were asking about cities and private equity and investments. Because actually, we were just talking yesterday. Won't leave too much, it's coming in one of these reports, one of these analyses.
Mhm.
But one of the projects we're working on now is around the growth of the USL as a soccer league, and that's important to mayors. We've got Major League Soccer, which is running. We've certainly got mayors, who are in cities that are home to Major League Soccer clubs. We've got mayors who are home cities for USL and its top league. Its second division, and you can follow without getting into it today. All these sorts of angles and permutations about where the sport is growing and how it's growing. And so mayors look at it and go, well, I might not have a Major League Soccer team in my city anytime soon, but is USL available? And you look at the growth there. And so you see things like in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, where the Boston Red Sox had one of their minor league teams for so many years. And that was so much a part of the fabric of that city. And then the Paw Sox left and went to
Mhm.
Worcester. There's nothing there, but the USL has come in with a club, and that city is booming around that club and that venue. And it's not too many thousands of seats, but my goodness, and they're going through figuring out how to grow. So it's all these things, and I'm not going off in different directions to sort of, which I can do. And Tony's laughing because I do it, but I'm saying that to say these investments, and what one of the investors who this working group spoke with just yesterday pointed out, he's investing in a USL club. He said, I can't get into major league professional sports at the level of an NBA. Is there like, God willing, one day, but I won't get in the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL now just saw for an expansion team is north of $2 billion. You need a lot of family money and or private equity money or public investment fund money from abroad, the Gulf regions or parts of the Middle East. And at that level, he said, I can't get into those sports or those leagues, but I can get in to these other leagues. I can get in the millions of dollars level,
Yeah.
or there are people who can get in at the hundreds of thousands of dollars, or some even a piece in the tens of thousands of dollars. And I think that's where there are these opportunities, and they grow. The world changes, right? 100 years ago, we were not looking at the sport, the NFL, and certainly professional football was not something people were paying attention to.
No, not at all.
And, here we are. A lot thanks to you and Ray.
Well, and then with technology and AI, we haven't even touched on that, but you've got TGL, which is essentially in a studio, creating a golf experience with simulators and video components and everything else. So where's that going to go? Is just think 20 years from now.
Right.
So we go from when I was a young media buyer at McCann Erickson working on Coca-Cola. Ted Turner would go around, I would always say, with a styrofoam cup in the mornings so he could spit out his tobacco juice and say, trying to get media buyers to buy, CNN and the Braves on TBS. It was like, and everyone sort of scoffs, why do we need 24/7 sports and 24/7 news? Well, we all learned that message. So 20 years from now, AI, how many other simulator kind of things, are we going to have? I can remember this probably 20 years ago. We had a senior meeting, and August Bush was saying, how can we bring young people into SeaWorld? And I sort of facetiously said, we need some modern little venue on the thing with computer laptops to talk about the animals and stuff. And the kids will sit there on the computer and they'll learn more about the shark and the dolphin than if it's instructed probably with the real people, because that's where their heads are going. So technology and AI is going to be another element that we'll talk about probably on another day, but I don't think we'd be naive to think that that's not, well, it's already happening as we talked about with TGL. So we've lost a little bit of our counter because we've lost Ray from time to time, but
I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. But we got like 5 minutes before we call it a day.
Yeah.
Lee, anything we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, you'd mentioned earlier, and it sort of gets to an extension of what you were just saying. You'd mentioned earlier about work in Abu Dhabi and the region there, which is another chunk of things. But I just want to say, off of what we were just discussing, even something like Live Golf, which I think for a lot of people, certainly in the West, and not to sound sort of wonky in that way, but in the West, they're like, oh, well, here comes a bunch of money. It's this endless supply. They're just looking to be disruptive and throw a bunch of money and probably throw some political weight around and do this, that, and the other. And, that is not at all the case. It's just not what's happening. But that kind of money certainly changes the landscape, and it changes the nature of the game. And all of a sudden, oh, well, come on, Live Golf. No one's going to take that seriously. Well, the PGA, has been learning that the very, very difficult way. And it leads to
Sounds
things
like you're on the payroll.
GL and what was that?
It sounds like you're on the payroll.
No, it's not the first time that I've heard that. I know you enough to know that's in jest. But the truth is, like anywhere, and I know this is something that's actually very seriously, actually, for both of you, back to the core of it, which is about helping people develop.
Yeah.
That's something dear to both of you, is experiencing people and experiencing places and what you can learn rather than just sitting somewhere and thinking that, whatever's coming across your screen or whatever you think is, must be the way that it is. And the work. So NYU has a global campus in Abu Dhabi. There's one in Shanghai, China, and then we've got all these locations, sort of they're usually like one building locations in cities all around the world. So it's this kind of network, and which also for another day, how that came to be is really an incredible story in innovation and forward thinking and getting through controversy about don't do it. We should just be here in New York, and the forethought to go no, got to be in New York and out in the world. What being able to go there, and Tony referenced a while ago, I think it's a little more than 10 years that we held a program there when NYU was first, it was a little after NYU had first arrived there. And it was, you'd find, other than in the mainland city, it was like, I think the NYU campus was like this collection of buildings on an island that was just surrounded by sand and water. And now you go there, and cities change, but you go there now, and it's the Louvre is there, the Guggenheim Museum. There's this Abrahamic family house that's got a church, a mosque, and a synagogue all facing each other. These incredible things. What that is, and that connection has given me a different perspective. Where now, when in being in conversations, somebody goes something like, "Oh, well, you must be on the payroll." I love that you brought that to me, Tony, because you must be on the payroll. It's like, no, it's just that I've been there, and I see what they do and who the people are, and their vision is. And when you go, I just want to say the last thing is, they've got a Vision 2030 plan, and they're working now on Vision 2050 or 2060 to be determined. And you go, my goodness. Here we think about things in terms of 2 or 4 year cycles. There, it's a 2-year cycle as you just get started on the research, because it's a 30-year cycle for an 100-year project. Right. And you go, oh my goodness.
Well, I think what they're saying, I spent 4 years going to Qatar from Telemundo after Moscow, and I know we got to go. But but everything I was hearing was they know that everyone's going green and we're less oil dependent and et cetera, and they're trying to build tourism. We brought our clients, you're going to love this, to the Emirates Palace in Abu Dhabi as a headquarters, took them on a day trip to Dubai and flew charter into Qatar, Doha, watched France play Argentina in one of the great World Cup games of all time, flew them back to Abu Dhabi. But we've exposed now a few hundred people to those 3 countries. And so I agree with you. They're trying to just kind of elevate their position in the world. They have the money to do it, and they have a 50-year plan, and they're not going to run out of money. But nobody wants to hear that, and they resist it because, it's new. But there's huge things coming out of the Mideast, huge things over time.
And I think, Lee, and we'll wrap up with this, the way you messaged it, I'll spit it out, is the way it should have been projected from the beginning, right? It's really important. Who's the spokesperson? Who's the face of it?
What's the brand?
What's the brand? And if it had been positioned that way versus Greg Norman, who we'll leave it at that, and all that was coming out, which is it came out with we're going to compete with the PGA Tour. It should have been a whole different message. But anyway, as we said at the beginning, we learned a lot. I think there's going to have to be a Professor Igel Part 2 at some point, because there's a lot in that brain of yours, which I knew, and now Ray, I think, has
learned. I'm going to take 2 Tylenol.
But thanks for your time. Thanks for your wisdom.
Great.
Wisdom Circle. And we'll have to have breakfast down in the village one time to keep up the offline conversation.
All right. Well, it's my honor to join you here. A pleasure for breakfast anytime. There's a buffet in Abu Dhabi. I think that's calling all of us as well. So we can, everyone listening onward there.
Guest lecturers or guest speakers from time to time. We're not adverse to that.
That place
anyway, with all that said, thank you. Thanks to our listeners